Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock in Scandinavia, right? 11 o'clock in my home. But whatever the time, I hope we all have found our favorite seats and can start the meeting. So it is really nice to see you all here. The idea is quite fresh for us. First time we do something like that. 6 months after our NordAN conference in Riga, we now meet again to ask what has changed, what has continued, and what should kind of carry forward towards our next conference, which will take place in Faroe Islands in October. So we will hear short updates from Latvia, then from several Nordic countries, from our drug policy work, from Ukraine, and continue kind of a mini-series regarding the SAFER initiative. Doug Rekve from WHO is with us as well. And then we will finish with a brief focus on Faroe Islands, where we will meet then in person again in October. So it's a fairly full program, but I hope it will feel like a useful and kind of a friendly check-in rather than a heavy formal meeting. I will moderate most of the program today, but to open the meeting properly, I would now like to give the floor to our network president, Marianne Skar, for a few welcoming words. So, Marianne, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lauri, and thank you for organizing this. It was really great to see you all and to see all the pictures from the Riga conference. Unfortunately, I missed being there and I really missed the opportunity, but I've been enjoying the pictures and I've heard a lot of positive news after the conference, positive evaluation. And that's why it's so important to continue the discussions and to keep on going. And we see that there is a lot going on in the Nordic community. NordAN is more than 25 years, and it's becoming more and more important when I look at the political changes and the switches that we have in the different countries. We have gone from being the Nordic, Norway, Sweden being really in the forefront of policy while they are loosening up. And I was just reading this morning on LinkedIn the concerns about what's going on in Sweden. And then we have Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania really pushing forward, sorry, with some really good news and giving us, showing the way. And that's really good. So we have a lot to discuss. We have a lot to follow up, and I'm very happy. So I'm really going to be very short and wish you all a warm welcome and happy to see you and looking forward for today's discussion. Thank you, Lauri.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Before we now go into the first session, just one practical reminder again. You are all are professionals in these online meetings, so you all know, but please keep your microphones closed when you are not speaking. And also for the speakers, keep your interventions focused and let's try to keep the agreed time. So we are beginning with Latvia. Riga was the place where we met 6 months ago, and Latvia clearly remains an important case for our whole region. We have two speakers in this session, and they will both give around 15 minutes presentations. First, we will hear from Ginta Egle from the Ministry of Health of Latvia. Ginta will give us an update on recent developments in alcohol policy in Latvia. Ginta, very welcome, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Laurie. Thank you very much, and hi everyone else. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you a short update on alcohol policy developments in Latvia. And today I will remind you what changed in legislation in 2025 and also give you a short insight on what we have learned in the first months after the amendments entered into force. And ta-da-ta-da. And a little reminder to refresh your memory, then Latvia has faced persistently high alcohol consumption for many years, with corresponding burden in mortality, hospitalizations, injuries, and wider social and economic costs. And against this background, the 2025 amendments should be understood as a part of broader effort to strengthen population-level alcohol control policy, and the package focused on alcohol environment, availability, promotion, and visibility. And another reminder, the amendments entered into force on August 1st, 2025, and introduced several changes at the same time. The first major change was the reduction of sales hours in retail. Alcohol sales are now limited to shorter time windows, including shorter sale hours on Sundays. Also, there is a ban of price and discount advertising. This is important because price promotions can stimulate purchasing and make alcohol appear more attractive or more affordable. And also, there is a ban of sales promotion practices that encourage impulse purchases. This is especially relevant in retail environments where consumers' behavior can be influenced by placement, promotions, and purchase cues. Amendments also introduced stronger requirements for visible health warnings and information of the ban of sales to minors. And the intention overall was to tighten alcohol environment as a whole through shorter availability windows, less price-based marketing, fewer promotional cues, and stronger consumer-facing warnings. However, as with any regulatory reform, adoption of the law is one part of the process and implementation is another, but equally important. And in the first months after the amendments entered into force, we have already seen that the alcohol industry and retailers are adapting to the new rules very quickly. I mean, this was expected, but it's still very important to observe that. And one of the major issues is that price-based advertising and discount advertising have been banned, but
Sorry. Can I interrupt just for a moment?
Yeah.
Have you changed the slides already? Because we are still seeing the first slide.
I have. You don't?
Yeah.
No.
I think if you make it full screen, at the moment we.
Oh, you do not see the full screen?
Yeah.
No.
We saw the change of the slide, but you have an option up there where the screen
no,
button
I'll
is.
share once
Yeah.
more. It sometimes happens, so I'll do it like this. And now, do you see full screen?
Yeah, now it is. Now it is. Very good.
Oh, now you see full screen. Okay. I won't repeat myself, but I will continue. And as I said, that one of the issues is that price-based advertising and discount advertising is banned, but brand advertising still remains allowed, which means that alcohol brands can still maintain visibility, which they do, and recognition, appeal, even if direct price promotion is banned. And another emerging issue concerns the hospitality sector, particularly bars and restaurants, because unfortunately some representatives of the sector interpret several of the new restrictions as applying mainly to retail trends, and therefore consider that promotional practices such as happy hours or buy more, pay less can still continue in bars. And from a public health perspective, that is very problematic, because the aim of the reform itself was to reduce alcohol promotion and impulse purchasing more broadly, not simply to shift these practices from shops to hospitality settings. This is why implementation monitoring is important. It helps us identify where legal clarification, supervision, or further amendments may be needed. Also, digital channels are particularly challenging. For websites, apps, social media, influencer-style content can blur the line between brand visibility and promotion. This creates this gray zone both for supervision and for future legal interpretation. And for us, this is a very important lesson. The early implementation period is not only about checking whether the law is formally being followed, it is also about understanding where the current legal framework still leaves the room for alcohol visibility and indirect promotions. And and at this stage, we are still being very careful not to present strong impact results too early, because the data is still being processed. And the amendments entered into force on August 1st, 2025. So the post-implementation observation period is still quite short, and public health impact cannot be addressed responsibly after only a few months. And alcohol consumption trends, hospitalization data, mortality data, other health outcomes accumulate with delay. In addition, some data are still being prepared, checked, or harmonized to make sure that they are comparable and can be interpreted carefully. For example, mortality data in Latvia is available only in June, late to June. And we are also planning a repeated population survey, which is planned in June as well. The first one was in June last year. And this survey will help us understand public awareness, attitudes, and perceived changes after the amendments entered into force. And about the evaluation itself, it will look at several dimensions, not only at one outcome indicator. We will assess implementation and supervision as well, whether the amendments were implemented in practice as intended by the legislator and how supervision has functioned. Then we will look at the availability environments and early indicators, which means this means whether there are early observable changes in how alcohol is sold, promoted, accessed, and whether any early alcohol-related indicators show more. And then we will look also at early public health signals, such as hospitalization, mortality data, including those related to sensitive groups such as minors. And it's also important to mention that the public health evaluation will be completed by a separate assessment of economic impact by the Ministry of Economics and Ministry of Finance. And looking ahead, we are discussing possible next legislative steps, and one direction is raising the minimum age for purchasing and consuming alcohol to 20. The public rationale is to delay initiation and reduce early risky drinking, especially among young people in Latvia. We are also moving towards a more comprehensive advertising ban or full advertising ban, because the current restrictions cover price and discount advertising, but they do not fully cover branded advertising, also sponsorship, digital marketing, and other forms of indirect promotion. And another potential measure is health warnings on alcohol packaging. This would include information on cancer risks, pregnancy, driving, and other health risks. The aim would be to improve consumer information and make health risks more visible at the point of consumption. We are also looking at price policy tools, including the possibility of minimum pricing or other measures to limit access to very cheap alcohol, because in Latvia alcohol is rather cheap, and price remains one of the strongest drivers of consumption. So the price policy is an important part of alcohol harm reduction. And another direction is restricting alcohol sales in petrol stations. This is connected both to public health and also traffic safety. And alcohol availability in fuel stations creates a very problematic link between alcohol purchasing and mobility, including car use, which is a problem in Latvia. And also we are further going for sponsorship restrictions, and particularly in sport and culture, because sportsmanships can create positive association between alcohol brands and healthy lifestyle, social cues, and youth-oriented environments. And that will be all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginta. Excellent, excellent update. It's really great to hear. I mean, we were impressed, I think, everyone who were participating at the Riga conference, the work that that is being done and that you have been doing, the ministry and the civil society and the researchers and so on. Anyone, anything to ask? We have a few minutes. Rebecca.
Thank you for this beautiful presentation. It's such a joy. Regarding what Marianne said at the beginning, we're seeing some backlash in Sweden right now. So it's so nice to see that there's balance in the universe, and for every step back we take, you take one step forward. So thank you for this positive start of the day. My question is regarding the health warnings. What do you see ahead when it comes to launching this in terms of EU regulation? We saw brave attempts from Ireland to do the same a while ago. They faced a lot of opposition. What are your take-homes from that and lessons learned?
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much also for the comments. Regarding health warnings, we also faced a bit of problems with the EU regulations coming to that, but we are moving forward to that. I cannot really say how we will be moving forwards with that, but we will definitely try. And there's also, there's also this electronic working group, which will be developed, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll see about that. But I really hope it will go well for us, but at the moment we are very hopeful about that. We are going alongside with this, but we are making it as a package and trying to implement other changes as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Any comments, questions? Yeah, Marianne.
Just had to comment, of course, when the labeling. I think you have a good possibility if you go for it. I mean, France has had their health warning since 2007, and Lithuania as well. So I think it's a matter of political will more than anything else. I don't think the EU will stop you. I think it's the national political will that is the challenge. So just go, go, go. And don't forget ingredient listing. That's very vital. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ginta, and keep up the good work. What else can we say? And whenever our network can be helpful also, well, we are definitely here for you. So now we give the floor to Jelena Svedre from the organization Tavai Privibai, a new organization, a member organization of NordAN Network. So we welcome both you personally and your organization as well. That was a very positive and nice addition also from the Riga conference. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Lauri, for warm words. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone as well. And I will just continue Ginta's presentation actually by talking about this public opinion, public narrative situation. And I will also mention some other updates of our organization. The media narrative suggests that alcohol volumes actually went down by around 5% last year, but it is still not clear why. I want to say one more time, it's not official data, it's just journalist narratives and public media information. And journalists suggest that it may be linked to the new restriction, but it may also be part of a longer trend. And the first data from the January this year, 2026, show that an even bigger decline in data. It's around 12%. And at the same time, police say that there have been no major changes in alcohol circulation, although illegal trade is still a problem. This data comes from the State Revenue Service. And public health experts, including me, say that the current measures are not enough and that stronger steps are needed, including higher excise taxes. I'm representative of the public health institution in Latvia as well, so I'm commonly interviewed in these issues. Secondly, public reaction to alcohol sales restrictions seems to be quite limited, and there has not been strong public resistance so far. At the same time, some media stories show more serious problems. For example, people drinking cologne instead of alcohol, and this points to like deeper addiction issues in Latvia. Our beloved industry representatives, they say that the decline in alcohol sales is more likely part of a long-term trend, not only the result of the new restrictions. And retailers, especially small businesses, they are more worried because of sales hours, actually. They say that restrictions can reduce turnover and make their situation more difficult. And a few personal stories as well also show that alcohol addiction has a serious long-term effect, not only on the person drinking, but also on their family. That's about media narratives. About loopholes. Let's talk about loopholes. As Ginta mentioned, since 1st August, Latvia has banned advertising alcohol prices and discounts. However, some businesses are finding ways around the rules. For example, alcohol leaflets may still be shared without prices, which can still suggest a promotion, to be honest. There are also concerns from my side, concerns that the large shops, well known in Lithuania and Estonia as well, Maxima, Rimi, they do not always follow the rules on showing prices and discounts in stores. As you see in picture, they are lightened out in yellow color, and it is when we were writing the restrictions, we thought to ban this kind of promotion of prices. So overall, this suggests that the rules may have loopholes and need stronger control. And I want to admit that the advertising supervision is carried out by another institution. It's a Consumer Rights Protection Center, but it's like not for protocol, but the experience shows that its director has a very, very different understanding of what counts as advertising in the alcohol and the gambling sectors as well. So as a result, their involvement in preventing these violations is minimal. And this is my trigger, actually. I took this picture yesterday. Outdoor alcohol advertising is banned in Latvia. But in the center of Old Riga, a boat is sailing along the canal with an advertisement of non-alcoholic beer on its roof. So this is new normal in Latvia. Let's talk about positive things. Here's some updates. I hope you remember Agris, our organization's founder. Although his project 1000 Days Sober has formally ended, Agris continued his public awareness work by resuming the filming of discussion programs. And in the past month, 2 new episodes have been produced featuring psychotherapists and social anthropologists. And I want to mention that both of whom are super respected public figures in Latvia. And a brand new project from Agris as well, the 30 Days Sober. This is a new commercial activity by Agris and his friend, musician, well-known musician in Latvia, Ansis Flintstones. And this challenge encourages people to try short-term sobriety, and it includes daily videos from Agris and Ansis, practical tasks, legal challenges, and online support sessions in Zoom platform. And in Latvia, as I know, more than 100 people have already completed the program. So it's very popular and common. And the last update, this year, Eurovision, yesterday started. Our Latvian song, Anna, which means in English, shadow, got quite a lot of attention in Latvia because it shows alcohol in a darker and more serious way. In this song, alcohol presented as something people may turn to when they feel lonely or mentally lost. And the song helps to show that alcohol can be connected to deeper problems and difficulties in families or personal life. And it's like breakpoint in Latvia. So don't forget to vote for Latvia in Eurovision tomorrow in the final. And that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jelen. Oh, this gives Eurovision as well a very different kind of meaning. Good if people are using it like that. Any comments, any questions? Anyone? Mindaugas.
Hello, and I'm actually very happy once again to hear about the intentions and the work already finished in Latvia on the legislative part in terms of alcohol, but remembering the Lithuanian experience, I can also remember that there were a lot of policy discussions, a lot of fake arguments, a lot of scare tactics from the industry, etc. So just keep in mind that almost everything you are doing now, we already covered that, and we have a lot of examples before and after. And now we use some of those as case studies for industries' scare tactics to show that basically what they were claiming that will happen, nothing happened. And like when increasing the age to 20 years old, there will be claims that, oh, the young people who are getting married and could serve at the military, they can no longer drink, so this is pathetic, this is nonsense, etc. The same with the bans of sales in petrol stations. We had a crazy outburst of the petrol station organizations claiming that they will close down their petrol stations. None of that happened. So if you ever need any examples what happened in Lithuania, so keep in mind that your neighbors are always ready to help. That just give us a note and we will share everything. Thanks.
That is just super, Mindaugas. Yes, exactly. We have been thinking about the petrol station case in Estonia as well, and yeah, exactly the arguments that it's really difficult to identify or define what is actually the petrol station, where the petrol station ends and where the shop starts, and so on, and what do you do when the shop is right next to the petrol station, and so on. So that would be actually a good kind of yeah, case exactly put together the arguments that you are mentioning. So yeah, we may also be interested in following this up. Definitely, that's a good point. Anyone else? Comments or questions regarding the situation in Latvia? Yeah, Edva, please.
I was listening, and it was interesting what I could. Sometime when I listen to everything is English and I'm in another country, I cannot pick everything up. But was it working with to to have the age to 20, or is it coming through, or was it about? I was not. I could not follow if it was something who has happened or they work with to be able to buy when you're 20. In Faroe Island, it's 18. Was it happen already, or was it a part of what you're working with?
Yeah, thank you for the question. No, we are working towards it. Now you can buy alcohol, when you're 18, but we are working towards so that the age would be 20.
And I was understanding right.
Lithuania is the country which has now 20.
20?
So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's I guess it what you're telling, it can how can we have our stories around the country, because it's difficult. Also, it's a big change from 18 to 20. I guess in the people it feels like a big change, but in my mind it's better when you start later. But I can believe that there is problem in the public, because they feel that they are grown up as 18 and 2 years more. But I think for the brain it's better to wait longer. Thank you for your talk.
Thank you, Edva. Mindaugas, maybe you can comment a little bit. How has the age increase can you sum it up somehow? How effective has it been, and how's the population view?
Yeah, well, the population in general support the increase of age restriction basically very well. This is probably the most popular policy measure, because the majority of population is not touched or influenced by it, and also it targets the younger population. Of course, the younger population is not that enthusiastic. The main reasoning of having this policy was to separate the high school students from the students of the universities. Yeah, because usually when you are 18 years old, so some of the young people are already able to buy alcohol being in a high school. So that's the difference. We did some analysis, and yeah, it shows positive effects. And what else? I don't remember right now the exact numbers, if you want to hear anything, but we had some positive impacts in there, and of course it's a well supported policy.
Oh, thank you. We had NordAN Open Day in Copenhagen a couple of months ago, and we focused on age limits there. Denmark is working with the age limit issue as well, and we heard from Niola about the case in Lithuania as well. So good luck for Latvians with this issue as well, and hopefully it will be successful. We see, for example, as we brought out during the Copenhagen meeting as well, the IARC, the cancer organization under WHO now recommends a 19-year limit for the alcohol sales. So official recommendations also also improve in this field. So thank you again for Ginta and Elena, and good luck with the work in Latvia. We will now move on to the Nordic countries. This session is a little different because we have several short updates in this one block. The idea not to give full country presentations, but again, just like we had at the Riga conference, we had short updates from different member countries, but now we focus on 4 Nordic countries: Finland, Norway, Iceland, and Sweden. And a lot has happened in these countries. We may summarize maybe, but that the direction, unfortunately, is a little bit troublesome. So we will hear from these countries. These are different national situations, but the common thread comes clearly out that the Nordic alcohol policy model is facing political and commercial pressure in several places at the same time. So we have now almost 40 minutes for this section. So hopefully we will manage every speaker can have 7 to 8 minutes. So we will start with Finland. Jiri Damski from EHYT ry, our member organization from Finland, will give a short presentation. Jiri, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good to see you even on online, and I will now give you some update from the Finland, and it might be maybe one of the most problematic development in Nordic countries or in northern countries at the moment. What's happening in Finland at the moment? I'm in the conference of Finnish social and health NGOs, which is happening in the ferry between Helsinki and Tallinn. But at the moment, the boat is in the port of Tallinn, so I hope the internet will work well. And can you see my presentation now?
Not as a full screen again. So if you we see the whole selection of your slides.
It's full screen on my computer, but what about now?
No, it's still.
I'm not so familiar with Zoom, but
if you try to share once again and choose not to share the full screen, but just the presentation, does it work then?
Yeah, maybe.
But then you first have to unshare, I think.
Yeah.
It's still a little bit mystery how Zoom works. Yeah.
Yeah. What about now?
It's coming. Let's see. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So this is a update. Now I have problems with changing the slides.
Okay. Yeah, it's still the same if you have changed already.
Yeah. Okay, they are changing, but very, very slowly. Can you now see the home delivery of alcohol at market in slide?
Yes.
Okay. So this is one of the biggest. Oh well, I will start with this. Sorry. So there's a lot of big changes happening in Finland during this governmental term, and those might affect the very basis of the alcohol policy which has been in Finland. And now I will have a short update about the recent developments. And the first bill was about the home delivery of alcohol at marketing, which could endanger the age limit restrictions, and also it would allow the fast deliveries at home, and it would affect the alcohol monopoly later on quite much. And the bill is still in the parliament. The Social Affairs and Health Committee probably is not supporting the bill, but anyway, it is accepted that the law will be passed during this parliamentary term during this year by the parliamentary majority. The bill has they tried already to put it through last year, but it's still in the parliament, so of course there's always hope, but it seems that it will be passed. Then there's also this cross-border distance selling of alcohol, another bill which would also endanger the alcohol monopoly and the Finnish system, and it would allow foreign operators to sell alcoholic beverage which are even much more stronger than, for example, the anyway, so this would also weaken the alcohol's monopoly, and the situation with this bill is the same, that it's still in the parliament, but it is accepted that the law will be passed this year. Then about the alcohol taxation, it's maybe one of the only things which are staying as it used to be. That's partly because there is that kind of austerity politics going on, a lot of cuts in Finland, and the government is also getting more money with that, but the government is now planning the further increases in alcohol taxes next year. They haven't been there has been some odd things, like, for example, beer and that kind of like drinks has been in a different position than strong alcohol. But anyway, the alcohol taxation is still kind of working well, and this is maybe the only thing we are happy about the government at the moment. Then the resources of the prevention work, there has been already quite much cuts in many sectors for social and health NGOs, but also ministries and governmental institutions like the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare. But now there was budget negotiations this year, and there came very bad news for the social and health NGOs. Even we were trying to affect a lot. We were again demonstrating, etc. But the government decided about the additional 50 million cuts for the social and health NGOs, and that means that the funding of the social and health NGOs is cutting half during this governmental term. And there were already quite big cuts coming, but now there are coming even bigger cuts, and there is about 80 million euros cuts for next year coming. And for example, EHUT, we have already went through 2 years of cuts, but we are now accepting even bigger cuts than ever before for the next year, and it's really hard situation in that way. And as I told in Riga, there are more work all the time for the social and health NGOs. The unemployment rate is the highest in the Europe. There are cuts in the social security. People are coming to the social and health NGOs to seek help and etc. And also in the alcohol and in alcohol and gambling field, there's a lot of to do. The drug problem is still big in Finland, etc. So at the same time, we have more work to do than before, but we are less and less money. But there are general elections coming next April, and even we don't at the moment we don't think the budget for the social and health NGOs would increase at least a lot in the next governmental term either. We are hoping to get some kind of like long-term view, so that we wouldn't need all the time think about the next cuts coming in the next year and how big they are, etc. And we have also just published our 50 solutions to how the Finland could reduce alcohol and substance abuse and gambling related harms. And maybe the thing that we have now 50 solutions also tells about the Finnish situation, that there's a lot of to do. But we will tell you more about this, for example, in Faroe Islands NordAN conference. But this was at the moment my bad news. Thank you.
Thank you, Iri, and really we feel the pain and hope that EHUT will find the way to continue its really important work. We will continue now with Norway. Hopefully, maybe we will have some time for discussion after we hear everyone. Stig-Erik Sjørheim, our board member and Norway expert, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Lauri. Let's see if I can manage to share this in the way that we're supposed to. Let's see. Can you now? I'm in full screen mode. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very good. Yeah. All right. So it's interesting to hear, and it's interesting to see the program for this this webinar, because when you come to the Nordic countries, it's threaten, weaken, erode, undermine, and I think we don't see the full-on attack that you see in Finland, but we see this gradual erosion of policies where they change laws and they always liberalize somewhat, and the farm sales issues is of course one of these examples. So the issue of farm sales has been on the agenda for quite a long time, really, and there is broad political support. I think it's a good issue. It's a good, you can support local producers, you can support local farmers. It's good for regional policy. It's good for tourism. So all these, there's so many good things about this farm sale idea that it's really supported by across the board from the most libertarians to the really quite far out on the left. And if you look at the issue in isolation, it probably has a little impact on alcohol policy and on consumption in itself. The question is whether there are side effects here. And I think that in Norway, the discussion has always been about the effect of farm sales on the monopoly system, and also the issue of EU competition rules. So can you have a monopoly if you allow a lot of other sales channels? And if you open sales new sale channels for national producers, will this be construed as discrimination against foreign products? I think this is the same issues that we've seen in the discussion in Sweden, of course. One complicating factor for Norway is that we are a member of the European Economic Area, but not of the European Union. And when we negotiated the EEA agreement in the 1990s, a lot of the farm products were excluded from the treaty. And this was, of course, to protect Norwegian food production, which is, I think, it's a legitimate issue. And for instance, wine and beer, they are covered by the European Economic Area agreement, but some traditional alcoholic beverages are not. For instance, honey-baked mead, like the traditional Viking drink, there's some ciders and fruit wines. So that means in terms of EU law, there is a legal distinction between different types of alcoholic beverages that may even have the same alcohol content. So this is so useful for understanding the situation that we are in now. So in Norway, if you produce beer or alcoholic drinks under 4.7%, that's a different issue. That's not covered by the retail monopoly, so that's up to the local municipality. If you produce beer and you want to sell it directly to the customers, you can apply for a sales license in your municipality, and the municipality will either give you the license or not give you the license. So that's one issue. But since 2016, we have allowed the sale of locally produced cider and mead between 4.7 and 22% alcohol in farm stores. So of course they have to have the same opening hours that the wine monopoly has. They have to abide by the age regulations and all these things. But in principle, they can sell their own produced cider and mead that would normally be sold in the wine monopoly. But if you produce cider in Norway, you can sell it directly to customers. But if you produce fruit wine, you have to go through the wine monopoly. If you produce 8% cider, you can sell it locally. If you produce 8% beer, you have to go through the wine monopoly. So there's a discrimination, or there's a distinction between these different product categories. And we lived with this situation for quite a couple of years. But then Sweden, and I'm blaming Sweden here now, but the Swedish proposal to allow farm sales created a renewed interest in Norway. And I think that the politicians thought that if it's possible in Sweden, it should be possible in Norway. And the Swedish proposal is quite restrictive. And in December 2024, the parliament asked the government to see if it's possible to have a similar system in Norway. And the government hired a law firm to look at the issue. I think in the last year's election cycle, the Labour government said officially that they wanted to introduce farm sales and that they felt that the current rules are too rigid. I think this was as a response to the conservative side's more liberal, to preempt their liberal election promises. So it's the Labour Party has actively gone on and said that they've gone on record and say that they want farm sales. The legal report that was commissioned was presented in October 2025. And I think that it's fair to say that the report leaves the door half open for farm sales. It says, yes, that farm sales is a restriction on free movement of goods, but it's also its alcohol policy could be justified by public health. But they also say the lawyers also say that it's easier to justify if there are clear criteria for the types of products and producers covered, and also limits on the production and sales volumes. So they recommend, if we introduce this, they recommend a limited scheme. And it's also important for the lawyers to also say that it's important that the new sales channel should not significantly increase access to alcohol. Farm sales in itself is not regarded as a significant liberalization, but if we could keep liberalizing policies in other areas, it could make it more difficult to justify other control policies. There is this principle of consistency in the policy. It means that the country can decide to have a very high level of protection for instance, alcohol policy. But then the alcohol policy needs to be consistent. You can't have a wine monopoly and an advertising ban and super low prices. That doesn't make sense. It needs to be consistent. So if we keep changing the laws and undermining the policies, we make the policy less consistent. We have a very strict advertising ban. We have a monopoly system. But if we keep changing other aspects of the alcohol laws, then we are undermining that the justification for those, for instance, for the advertising ban and for the monopoly. The lawyers also say that there is uncertainty regarding the EU case law. There are some laws, some legal decisions on alcohol farm sales, but they are not really. If you read these texts, they are not really very clear. They are kind of specific to one specific issue, and they also say that other factors can change and influence our judgment. So it's not clear that farm sales is legal. And maybe you could even say that now with Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland all developing various farm sales models, it may become a more important issue for the EU court to look at. As long as it was just Finland and it was like a very minor issue and it was really pre-EU membership, then it wasn't a big deal. But the more countries sign up to this model, the more difficult the more significant this model becomes, and the more important it is to look at whether this is in fact in compliance with EU law. The lawyers say that if the law is challenged, if we start farm sales and somebody challenge it could be reversed and we could keep the wine monopoly, but that's also not certain. So there is a risk, it's an unknown risk here. And the lawyers also say very clearly that they've looked at the Swedish model, like a loose idea of a Swedish model. The legal analysis would be also depend on the concrete proposals and the details in the proposal. So there are a lot of uncertainty here. They say yes, it might be possible, but it depends a lot. And even with a restrictive model, you can't be sure. So that's basically what the legal analysis says. So the government is currently considering introducing a Swedish model. I think maybe Rebecca will talk a little bit more about what the Swedish model is, but it's a fairly restrictive model. But I mentioned the complicating factor with Norwegian membership in the EEA and the European Union for a reason, because the current cider sales and the mead sales is a complicating factor. If we introduce the Swedish model for farm sales of wine and beer, then we would have different rules for ciders and wines. So the farmer can produce cider and sell it directly, and then he produces wine, and then he has to give the people a tour of his farm and give a presentation about the production and the harms of alcohol. So that you'd have to treat similar products with similar alcohol content produced at the same place differently. So the question is, should we then tighten up the rules for cider and make the rules stricter to comply with the Swedish model, or should we loosen the Swedish rules for wines so that we have the wines can be sold under the same conditions that the ciders are sold today? And if we do that, then we no longer have a Swedish model. Then we have quite a commercial farm sales model, which I think would be even more problematic in terms of EU law. And it's interesting to see that the industry actors are looking carefully at this, and they are warning against the Swedish model because it's too restrictive. And just last week, the Industry and Agricultural Committee in Parliament passed a recommendation to increase the recommendation was really to increase Norwegian exports of food products. But in that in that decision, they introduce a surprise paragraph on farm sales, where they now urge the government to present a bill to allow farm sales, and also said that the government should take note of the criticism of the Swedish model. So those are the last signals from the parliamentary majority is go ahead with the farm sales that are already planned, but look at if we really need to be as restrictive as the Swedes. So that's pretty much where we stand right now. This decision we didn't know about it. It was a surprise, and it doesn't really change the policy process that much. It just gives the government an extra push to present their bill, but it also says that try to be more liberal than we originally planned. So that's basically the situation in Norway right now, and I think it's interesting. It's an interesting situation because we are in sort of a little bit uncharted waters, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Michaela just shared on chat Stig Erik's article also on PopNet, so check this out. And if you haven't noticed the chat room, Jiri, there are a couple of questions for you. Maybe you can respond in writing because we have to move on at the moment to Iceland. Adalstein Gunnarsson. Some problems in Iceland as well. What we have followed, we heard during the Riga conference. What's new, Adalstein?
I am opening the slideshow. Can you see?
We can see the slideshow, but again, not as a full screen mode.
What about now? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, then I will.
But I see you have 5 slides, so maybe you can, if you click to the next one, does it change like that as well, so that we don't?
I'm not sure. I cannot see.
Yeah. Now we see changing, so that's the way you can do it.
Okay. This is Iceland today. Can you see it?
Yes.
It's springtime. Thank you so much. Sending us
big screen, maybe.
Okay, is it like this one? Is this big screen? Okay.
Not for me.
A little bit narrow, but I think we see.
Yeah. Let's not be stressed about this. In Iceland, we have continuing illegal selling of alcohol, even though some changes have happened. Around 30 shady companies are still selling illegally on internet, breaking the law on monopoly. For example, not only selling the alcohol, but also breaking the rules about opening hours, age limits, and holidays openings. Hagkaup is like big shop, like Rema in some countries or something like that. They are still selling alcohol illegally online, and online shops that are open 24 hours. This company is owned by the stock market, and my pension fund owns 7%. I have written several letters to my pension fund asking them to take my money out of the illegal company that is breaking the law, and they do not answer me. My friends have sent to several other pension funds that owns in other companies, also this company, and they are getting answers like, we will look into this and something like that. But we are pushing this in the media. We write about this in articles in the papers. So we are trying to push the pension funds to draw back all their money from this illegal selling company. We have been pushing the police, the parliamentarians, and the government for a long, long time. And after 5 years, it went to the police has been investigating because we published accusation in October 25. They started persecuting, and they went into court in the 19 months, and there was a hearing where one company was taken to court for selling one box of red wine, 3.8 liters, something like that. And the judge ruled on 8th of April that this was illegal selling of alcohol outside of the monopoly. So we actually had great score. We won this case that we have been building up and waiting for 5 years. There is a draft in the parliament that they want to free the alcohol industry so they can sell online all the time. But we are trying to push it back. We got a letter from ESA, and maybe someone here can explain what ESA is. It's the Office of those who look after the rules of EEA contract. Okay. And there was seven serious questions, and they sent this letter on the 13th of March, and they gave the government very, very short notice to answer everything. And the government answered back on 21st April. I just got the answer here, and we are just looking at the result. But what we can read from this paper from the government, they are saying the law on alcohol is very clear. And all the answers are in favor of the ground ideas and preventions in our law on alcohol. And this is very important. The law on alcohol was established last time 1998, and we made the changes when we allowed farm selling of alcohol in not so long ago. But the spirit of our law on alcohol is to reduce the use and harm of alcohol. And in the answers from the Icelandic government, they say that they are only upholding the public health and prosperity in Iceland by not allowing internet selling of alcohol. I can read a little bit more from the answers to make you. One question was, can you provide a legal knowledge of legal environment in Iceland, why there is monopoly, and why they cannot get permission to sell? And the answer from the government is because it's public health that we are having monopoly on selling alcohol to reduce the harm. But there are two exceptions. It is the farm selling and the tax-free shop in the airport. And those, and they are asked also about how they are asking if it is approved in the EEA contract, and Icelandic government explains that it's very clear that the monopoly is still the largest seller of alcohol in Iceland. It is legal and it's very narrow, very clear, and it should not be any discrimination between any companies in Iceland, because the law is very clear. Every single company in Iceland knows that it is illegal to sell alcohol outside the monopoly. And it is what the government is doing. It is serving the purpose that is approved in EEE court, that is to reduce use of alcohol and the harm of alcohol and protect of public health. And these two lines are, in our opinion, the most important in this answer. I have already sent some of our friends this answer so they can look better into it. We need a little bit more time to publish these answers because we just got them. And for us, this is also positive in our work to have this answer from the government. We have no idea what will happen in the EEA court or what ESA will do about this answer, if they will argue or not. Of course, it's possible they will lawyer up and try to find ways to break down all hindrances in selling alcohol.
Other thing, could you wrap it up?
Yes.
Time is flying.
We had a short income in the meeting of there was conference in Planet Youth about the Icelandic model, and there were people from 180 people, prevention people from 30 countries, and we put out a paper that we worry about the Icelandic model being demolished, and we are pushing the government all around the world to do more prevention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will definitely keep following the Iceland situation as well. Rebecca Alberg from Sweden. I have to say, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Somehow it turned out already in Riga and now again that you are the last one, but that definitely doesn't mean anything. So we very happy that you are here and to defend Sweden a little bit as Stig-Erik put pressure on your country.
No, I mean, no worries. I'm very happy to be here, and I was very happy to meet with you all in Riga. Going back to the previous presentation, I think we're all worried about our models being demolished, but it feels like our governments are not that inventive, and they are influenced by each other. So what I presented in November regarding the Swedish ambition to become more like Europe, I learned during meetings with you that the same narrative seems to be going on in Finland right now. So in the midst of all negativity and in these trying times, there's something with our government officials being influenced by the same logic, same industry representatives, and the same narratives, because then we can learn from each other and maybe take note on the mistakes made along the way. And there are a few mistakes made in Sweden. So since we last met, well, just to go back to what is the Swedish ambition, becoming more like Europe. Let me just see if I can make my own PowerPoint work here. We all see it in full screen? Thumbs up if you do. Okay, perfect. So the Swedish government now has the ambition of liberalizing the Swedish model, making alcohol more available, more free for people to consume, more available, and that will make the country more fun, more vibrant, more like the rest of Europe as they portray it, as if Sweden was not a part of Europe already. And here's the thing that we are now Stockholm is now the most boring city in Europe, but with more liberal alcohol policies, this will be fixed. So what we have seen so far since we last met in November is that farm sales is now enacted in full scale. 150 of them have been opened. Just last week, I saw an abolition of the food requirement in Sweden. So previously, in order to serve alcohol in bars and restaurants and pubs, you need to have a kitchen. And that is to make alcohol less available. It becomes more pricey, and it becomes more responsible to serving, less available for people. But now, since a week ago, that is no more, which means that now you can serve alcohol in barber shops and different venues that does not have kitchens. And we also seen initiatives to extend opening hours, especially during the soccer championship this summer. Previously, we've been very responsible with closing hours and not serving alcohol after a certain time, but that is also becoming more liberalized. So a lot is happening in recent times, but we can actually see now the first results of farm sales. I'm looking at you, Stig-Erik, and other participants here who are looking at the results of the Swedish farm sales so far and what results it might have had. What we've seen, the Swedish Council for Information on Alcohol and Other Drugs released a report just a few weeks ago showing that the people who buy alcohol from farm sales are special. It's not just the people who buy alcohol at the monopoly. They're much, much younger. Most of them are 20 to 29 years old. They are also more likely to be problematic drinkers or have a higher alcohol consumption, 50% higher than the people who buy in the monopoly system. Most of the farm sales shops are in southern Sweden, so it's not in the rural north as it was packaged to be. This was supposed to be this, it made a case for the development of rural parts of Sweden, and people would engage in wine tourism now for the first time, but this is not really how it turned out. And surprisingly, the packaging was very much focused on very idyllic wineries where people would go. People would come to Sweden and for the first time discover our beautiful wineries. But it turns out that most customers purchase strong beers, not wine. Almost no wine, but a lot of demand for beer. So in short, it seems like farm sales in Sweden have attracted a specific group of consumers who are differing from the regular buyers in the monopoly system. And it has made alcohol become more available for these individuals. Again, looking at you, Stig-Erik, since Norway is looking with caution on making alcohol more available. This is a cautionary tale. And connected to our theme of making Sweden more like the rest of Europe, it's not really certain that we have achieved our goal of creating idyllic wineries with wine tourism and then locally produced breweries. It seems to be more of a metropolitan enterprise so far. So the discussion for us to carry with us is that not whether this is happening, because obviously it's happening in Sweden and in Finland and in a lot of countries. We are trying to mimic each other into imitating the more continental selling patterns of alcohol. But we can now start to review whether the policies are actually delivering what they're promised and for whom. And in the Swedish case, no, they're not really in the context of farm sales of alcohol. It doesn't seem to really deliver this visionary picture. Maybe for the industry, yes. For the consumers, no. But the lesson that we can all carry ahead with us from this is that the political packaging matters. And the industry have been very successful in packaging farm sales of alcohol in a very idyllic, picturesque way. And our challenge ahead in our work in protecting the Nordic models and public health is to package our own message in a way that is attractive for both public media, public opinion, but also for policymakers. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much. And thank you all Nordic speakers. I think this session shows quite clearly that the Nordic model is not being challenged simply in just one place, so through one big dramatic reform, although, for example, the farm sales is in the center of it in many ways, but it is challenged step by step and through different proposals and exceptions and so on. So and what we also see clearly is that this region is very united in that sense that you all influence each other in at the moment in these negative ways as well, unfortunately. So thank you all. Again, the work continues, and we always hope for better elections, right? Again, check on the chat and what discussion is going on there as well. But we have to move on. Peter Moilanen will now take us to the drug field. And Peter, you don't have to worry. You have all the time that is promised to you. We will look at the drug policy paper that NordAN has had since the end of 2000s already, but now has worked with the updated version. So please, Peter, take this.
Okay, thank you. And then the question is, of course, do you see the full screen at the moment?
Yes, perfectly.
Then it's the same as in my screen. Well, thank you for this opportunity. As you know, I sit in the board of NordAN, and I have been asked to give an update on the NordAN drug policy document that we had some kind of hearing or workshop, a lighter workshop at least, at the Riga conference. And you can see some pictures from that here, where we listened from the board about harm reduction and what to put in the drug policy document. But I have also two other things to wrap up from this conference in Riga. One is the resolution or a statement that we made to the EU drug policy strategy that were in progress when we met in November and now is adopted. And then the network meeting on drug that will be happening 15th of June. But I will come to that. First, an update on this drug policy document. And this will be very text heavy, but I will not read everything. I must say this. Thank you for the contributions at the conference. It was very valuable. We have then had a working group in the board, and we have also, when we had board meeting in Copenhagen some weeks ago, discussed this drug policy platform. And as you might reckon, we had an older document that was from 2007 or 2008, and we wanted to modernize the language and make it more simple, but also raise the questions that this policy metric actually what to think. And what we have landed in this draft, and you can see the draft in the agenda, and please contribute to that, because this draft will be adopted at the annual meeting, and the annual meeting is in this autumn in the Faroe Islands, so it's a lot of time. But just to give some slides, when we see the platform, the drug problem, and then the NordAN values, and I think the NordAN values put everything in the context. If you see, the NordAN core value is to reduce drug use and drug-related harm, and support conditions that enable people to live healthy lives free from drug dependence and other substance-related problems, including alcohol. And then drug-related harm affects not only the individual, but also families and the wider community. And of course, that's not a surprise for us, but it's important to put that in, that drug use and preventive work is important, and it's not an individual problem, it's a harm to others as well in this. But then it turns out to be a comprehensive, integrated and balanced drug policy, of course, with a heavy emphasis on prevention. And I will also put out the harm reduction, as we were talking about that in Riga 6 months ago. At the moment, the draft is like this: harm reduction has an important role in reducing adverse health consequences of drug use, including blood-borne infections and overdoses. So then we say harm reduction really is a tool in a comprehensive, integrated and balanced strategy. That's no question. But then harm reduction and detoxification should be integrated within a comprehensive strategy, so it ensures access to treatment, recovery, support, and social reintegration. So it has to be in a continuum of care. It's not the end goal from an NordAN perspective. And then we have a lot of prevention, and also, as you can see in the last part, treatment and recovery works. So that was the update. Heavy on prevention. Harm reduction is one in the continuum of care. It's a comprehensive, integrated, balanced policy platform, you could say. And please go inside and give us feedback on that. Then the resolution or the statement from the Riga conference. We had two resolutions, and one was on this: prevention first and health-centered EU drug strategy. And we recall the notes and recognize it, but all ends up in that prevention. The universal prevention is important to put emphasis on in a EU drug strategy perspective. That was what we said in November. And some of us had been in hearings and discussing this, as NordAN is a part of the Civil Society Forum on Drugs. We take part in the meetings and can give our views in that. And on the 4th of December, the European Commission presented the EU drug strategy for the Civil Society Forum, the member states, and different stakeholders. And what did they write then? Well, first of all, this is a house. It's their picture of the figure of how drug strategy work in EU. You have the roof where you have to be prepared with monitoring and facts and different things to have on board, so we have knowledge of things. And then it's the health, security, and harm pillars, you could say, and international cooperation and EU coordination. And in the health pillar, it is about prevention in this strategic goal number 2. The EU should actively engage in preventing and reducing drug use through the implementation of expansion and robust prevention. So they really say that preventing and reducing drug use is important from an EU perspective. And if you see the text afterwards under 2.1, you can see that evidence-based prevention should be central, but then the black text there, it's step up universal prevention activities. So really, if you look at the EU strategy, they have put in prevention, universal prevention activities, reducing drug use. So from that part, well done to NordAN, but maybe not, we were maybe not the only one and the most important one, but they said actually at the meeting we had in December that many stakeholders had put out that this was important. So I mean, if many stakeholders think about this and NGOs, then it's important. I will also just put out, as we discussed earlier, about our own drug policy platform from NordAN, that the priority number 3 is enhanced treatment, recovery, and reintegration, that people who use drugs should have access to that, and also what happened to harm reduction. Well, we talked about harm reduction as a continuum of care and put in things, and they have really put harm reduction in the harm pillar and reduce individual drug-related harm, and then they have this in the continuum of care with prevention and treatment, the EU and member states should be about harm reduction. So they have almost the same view, and some of the organization or NGOs that really wanted harm reduction to be the end goal, they are a little upset, at least, about this writing, but they were clear from the EU Commission that harm reduction should be, as it is harm to others with drugs, it should be in the harm sector, and it should be in a continuum of care. So the last thing, Lauri, to end up with is the NordAN Drug Network Zoom meeting that will take place on the 15th of June. I urge you to participate because it's important, of course, and this field today we talk a lot about alcohol issue, and that's of course a good prioritization from us. But if you are interested in narcotic drugs, then this network will really highlight some things. And we have Oriol Esculis from Progetto Ombre. He is more famous for us for the Oviedo Declaration about prevention, and NordAN has signed up that, a member of many of our member states, member organizations, sorry, in that field. But he will talk about prevention and what is happening in Europe and where are we heading. And it's the Barcelona Forum on Drugs is an end point or starting point of this work. And I put here a picture of me wearing a sign of Barcelona Forum on Drugs, not to highlight me myself, but that NordAN is a part of this forum from the Nordic and Baltic regional perspective. But it is also expert organizations like ASUP and from Eastern Africa region and all over the world that we gather in Barcelona to discuss this meeting. He will tell more about what is happening in this prevention field and what is happening in Europe from that way. And then Kati Laitila from the Finnish Red Cross will have a training on drug-related death prevention, more of harm reduction things to learn about. And in the end, I will give a short update on the drug situation in Europe. I mean, we have recently launched a report at Drug Policy Center where I work about medical cannabis in Europe that Cressida de Witt from World Federation Against Drugs has written. And we have also a report about the third way, but what's happening in Europe. And some of you have heard about that 2 years ago when we were in Oslo, not in Riga. But now things has happened so fast and rapidly in Europe that it's on point to discuss this even further. So that was what I was telling you, Lauri. Thank you.
Thank you, Petter. This is an excellent work, very important to NordAN, and we are happy that Petter and Stig-Erik are leading this drug field for us. And yes, Petter now mentioned this draft platform. You have an access to this draft paper through this today's meeting website. Under Peter's name, there is a link to this document, so you can find it there, and absolutely open to any comments. So if you have anything to share, you can send it to me, Peter, or Stig-Erik, or Marianne, or anyone whom you know best from NordAN. Just get in touch. Now we will have a short break, because how long can you sit in one place? So you may stretch a little bit, maybe take a cup of coffee or something like that. 10 minutes maximum. So keep the voice on when you hear the sounds again return, and then we will go to Ukraine and hear about. We will now continue with the focus on Ukraine. And this is, of course, very different context from the other countries that we have focused so far. Ukraine is working under extraordinary pressure, and at the same time, public health, mental health, alcohol, drug-related harms, prevention, recovery, all remain deeply important. We heard during the Riga conference from the WHO Ukraine head office director Jarno Habit about the situation there. And now we have his colleagues from WHO Ukraine office. And today, led by Alisa Ladik-Bryskalova, I hope you will then take the lead and also introduce your colleagues a little bit closer, and you have the opportunity now to inform a little bit about the challenges, about the work on these very important issues. So Alisa, Olha Maria, and Oleg, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, Lauri. Thank you for having us, and thank you for organizing this important event. And it was really interesting to listen to already to other countries' experience. I will pass the floor to Olga Maria now to start.
Dear colleagues, and of course, many thanks for your invitation. I will start showing the slides. Please let me know if you see the full screen.
Now we see, I think we now see also your, how do you call it?
Yeah, I understand. Present remote. So just a second, I will reshare the slides.
We should have a separate seminar, someone expert telling us, because I see that we all are still learning the Zoom, but we will manage.
Is it better now?
Yes, now it is perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, dear colleagues, dear partners, thank you very much for this invitation and for having us during this important event. And following up on a speech 6 months ago, we would like to briefly present the current situation related to alcohol control and public health in Ukraine during the wartime, including several recent policy and research developments. And I would start with some background information, our current progress in terms of policy and prevention. And my colleague Alisa will continue with a more detailed presentation on the organization of care for people with substance use disorders in Ukraine. So As all of you know, Ukraine has now entered the 5th year of the full-scale invasion. And while much international attention understandably focuses on emergency response and trauma care, we increasingly see the long-term public health consequences of prolonged war. Today, Ukraine's health system continues operating under constant pressure. This includes internal displacement, economic instability, interruptions and continuity of care, workforce burnout, rising mental health needs, and growing pressure on primary health and communities services. At the same time, the healthcare system itself remains directly affected by war. According to WHO verification through the surveillance system for attacks on healthcare, as of today, more than 3,000 attacks on healthcare have now been documented since February 2022. Around 80% of verified attacks affected hospitals, outpatient clinics, and other healthcare facilities, while approximately 20% targeted ambulances and medical transport. Even now, we're in the middle of a raid alarm, having more than 300 drones in our sky in this minute. So WHO also reported that since the beginning of this year alone, verified attacks on healthcare resulted in at least 15 deaths and more than 80 injuries among patient and healthcare workers. And these attacks happen in a broader humanitarian context. According to UN estimates, more than 12 million of people in Ukraine currently require humanitarian assistance, including more than 9 million people needing health support. At the same time, despite all these challenges, Ukraine continues advancing public health reform. That includes mental health reform, strengthening community-based care, NCD prevention, behavioral risk surveillance, and alcohol control policies. And this continued work on prevention is extremely important because the health consequences of war are not limited to immediate injuries. They also affect the long-term population and health outcomes. When discussing alcohol consumption in Ukraine today, it is important to recognize that the situation is quite complex and sometimes contradictory. Even before the full-scale invasion, alcohol represented a significant public health issue in Ukraine. According to global burden of disease estimates, Ukraine remains among the countries with one of the highest alcohol-attributed disease burden in the WHO European region. The prevalence of alcohol use disorders in Ukraine is estimated at around 6%, which is significantly higher than the global average. Among men, this figure reached more than 11%. Alcohol contributes substantially to cardiovascular disease, of course, cancers, liver disease, injuries and violence, mental health conditions, and premature mortality. At the same time, war conditions changed patterns of alcohol use in different ways across different groups. WHO-supported surveys show that experts increasingly describe as a polarization of alcohol consumption. Some population groups reduced or stopped drinking altogether after the start of the full-scale invasion, but others increased harmful alcohol use and heavy episodic drinking, often linked to chronic stress, trauma exposure, social isolation, uncertainty, and economic hardship. For example, recent surveys demonstrate that while the proportion of abstainers increased compared to the pre-war period, harmful drinking patterns among current drinkers also became more pronounced. And this is especially important in the context of mental health. Ukraine currently faces very high mental health needs. WHO estimates that millions of Ukrainians may require some form of mental health and psychological support. At the same time, NCDs continue to remain the leading cause of mortality even during the wartime. Alcohol, tobacco use, unhealthy diet, and low physical activity remain major modifiable behavioral risk factors contributing to this burden. At this slide, you can see the selected findings from WHO-supported alcohol survey conducted in Ukraine in 2024. And I would really like to emphasize the importance of evidence generation during the wartime. Reliable public health data become even more important in crisis situation because this helps governments and partners to understand changing behavioral patterns and adapt intervention accordingly. According to recent WHO-supported surveys, approximately 78% of adults reported alcohol consumption. And among current drinkers, harmful drinking patterns and heavy episodic drinking remain highly prevalent. The surveys also demonstrate important gender differences with significantly higher prevalence of heavy episodic drinking among men. Another important finding is that alcohol-related behaviors increasingly intersect with mental health and stress-relating coping mechanisms. According to other surveys like HBSC and SPAT, we can see that alcohol use among adolescents remained very widespread, and there are strong links between substance use, mental health conditions, and broader psychological stressors. This is why WHO continues emphasizing prevention and early intervention approaches, especially among young people and vulnerable populations. Despite the wartime conditions, Ukraine continues moving forward with alcohol policy development. One important milestone this year, in February, was the adoption of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine Action Plan to reduce the consumption of alcoholic beverages and to minimize harm. This is Action Plan for 2026-2028. From the WHO perspective, this is a very important step because it established a structured national framework for alcohol control and intersectional collaboration. The plan includes several key directions. First, this is prevention and awareness, and this step includes nationwide communication campaigns, public informational materials, and awareness-raising activities related to alcohol-related harms. Second point is strengthening the health system response. This action plan requires training for health and social service workers, strengthening early identification and treatment of alcohol use disorders, and development of technical recommendations and clinical guidance. And the third pillar is strengthening monitoring and research systems, improving alcohol surveillance, conducting national research activities, and strengthening evidence generation for policy making. At the same time, WHO continues advocating for stronger implementation of high-impact population-level measures under the SAFER framework, like alcohol taxation and pricing, restrictions on availability, marketing regulations, and, of course, drink driving preventions. Another major priority for WHO in Ukraine is strengthening evidence generation and surveillance system. At this slide, you can see that this year, WHO, together with national partners, plans to support several important research initiatives. One of the most important of them is the second round of STEPS survey. This is a WHO tool that allows to receive the data on risk factors for non-communicable disease, including, of course, alcohol consumption, tobacco use, nutrition, physical activity, obesity, and so on. WHO is also planning the third round of the CATI survey that would target only adult population. And this survey is especially valuable because it allows us to monitor alcohol consumption patterns in general, heavy episodic drinking, behavioral changes during the wartime, and public attitudes toward alcohol policy over the time. In addition, another round of HBSC study, this is health behavior in school-age children, is planned. The study is extremely important for understanding alcohol use among adolescents, mental health, social environment, risk behaviors, and other important aspects of NCD prevention among youth. In addition, WHO also plans to continue developing analytical publications, policy briefs, and technical materials focused on alcohol-related harms, evidence-informed policy responses, and the most important, alcohol taxation and pricing policies, and WHO broader best advice interventions. So looking ahead, one important activity is planned for the end of this year. This is the National Policy Dialogue on Alcohol Control that would gather government representatives, technical experts, international organizations, civil society, and of course, development partners. That would be the first year of implementation of action plan. And we would like to discuss the alcohol pricing and taxation, restrictions on availability, marketing regulations, drink driving prevention, and other challenges and hopefully wins as of the first year of the action plan. And perhaps the main message I would like to leave today is the following, that even during the wartime, prevention remains essential. So WHO remains fully committed to supporting Ukraine through evidence generation, policy development, mental health and NCD response, and strengthening resilience and integrated health system. So at this point, I would stop here and pass the floor to my colleague Alisa, who will share more information about services and our work in this direction.
Thank you very much. Alisa, your microphone is off.
I tried to switch on my slides. I'm not sure if I'm successful, as I'm not seeing those.
We don't see it full. Yeah, no. If you share, when you share it, you have two options. I think one is to share the whole screen and the other one is to share specific.
Can you see anything now?
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, very good.
Perfect.
Okay, but I'm just not seeing you, but I hope it will work. So to continue on what Olga shared on the information we have in this area and also public health measures and covering everything from the promotion and prevention perspective, I will just complement what Ukraine is doing in terms of building the network of mental health services, as we see that substance use conditions can be, and in Ukrainian context, there is a consensus that substance use conditions will be treated and supported in the mental health services network. So the key milestone for mental health service network development was endorsement in 2025, the new mental health law. We had the law on psychiatric care previously, but this law is quite unique and innovative in a way that it brings all the sectors together around a person with mental health and substance use conditions and their needs. Meaning that now, apart from health sector, we also have the social sector, education, interior, youth, sport, defense. So all sectors working together to address mental health, but also substance use disorders and ensure continuum of care, covering also prevention when it comes to what can be done at services level, but also providing the full spectrum of services and a full spectrum of treatment. So far we have a quite extended network of services developed as a part of mental health reform, which started basically in 2017 with the first ever mental health concept note. But then later on, as a response to the full-scale war, First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelenska, launched the all-Ukrainian mental health program, supporting the government. And these programs again bringing all sectors together, and through this new law, but also building and helping each sector to develop their own service network. So we have so far quite extensive network when you see new mental health centers introduced in the country. We have now more than 200, which is specialized or psychiatric care, where people with like more complex conditions can receive their care. Then primary health care, which is the entry point into the health system. Ukrainians trust their primary health care doctors, according to the survey, a lot. So for many years already, we support as WHO the implementation of MHGAP, Mental Health Gap Action Program, which includes the training model on substance use conditions, substances and alcohol. And so far we have every fifth or 20% of primary healthcare doctors in Ukraine trained in MHCAP program, which is in-person training program, followed by supervision, but also 100% of primary healthcare workers is covered through online course, which also includes the substance use conditions module. So through this network, Ukraine envisions that people with like early signs or consuming alcohol can first, their needs can be first assessed in primary healthcare, and then based on their results of screening, they can be referred to specialized care as needed, or they can be the basic psychosocial support or pharmacotherapy or other referrals to other sectors can be done through the primary healthcare. The opioid agonist maintenance therapy program continues to function quite efficiently in Ukraine for many years already, which also complements the new community-based mental health services that I just was talking about. And apart from health sector, following the law and the concept and new idea of mental health system in Ukraine, which is multi-sectoral, under the social sector and the Ministry of Social Policy, there was a network of resilience centers launched. We have almost 300 centers, which is very community-based care with a range of basic social care support, but also with psychosocial support component, which also Ukraine sees as an entry point for people with substance use conditions. And of course, anonymous alcoholics and mutual help groups continues to complement this service network. Another key milestone was the development and launch this year of the model of care for persons who use psychoactive substances and have substance use disorders, including alcohol use disorders. The work was led by the ministry and particularly Ukrainian Public Health Center, these models includes their organizational aspects, financing, and other regulatory arrangements around service model for people with substance use conditions, bringing again this multi-sectoral and bringing all sectors together to ensure continuity of care across the sectors. And apart from sectors, actually, like health, social, and education, and others, they also give a role to civil society as an important sort of sector, if we may say so, sector in addressing the various needs of people with substance use conditions. Apart from the national model of care, which will plan to be piloted in several oblasts now in Ukraine, there is a set of clinical standards of care for opioids use disorders and substance use disorders, except opioids, and of course alcohol use disorders, which also all together with the law, with set of clinical standards, and with this organizational model of care, provide the comprehensive set of frameworks. And basically, Ukraine is starting its way in building the comprehensive model of care for people who use substances. In this model, important role plays screening, and the model says that all people who attend their primary healthcare doctor should be at least once a year undergo screening for alcohol and other psychoactive substances. And basically, after this screening, and we have tools for that are contextualized and translated to Ukrainian language, like audit and assist. The idea is that, and that this is the screening model or screening algorithm, which is described in the treatment model envisioned for Ukraine when there is a low severity of the problem. So person is referred to low intensity and or like moderate intensity psychosocial support interventions, while like more severe substance use disorders require more intense care, and that is where mental health centers providing specialized mental health care step in. So I will probably stop here, and if there are any questions, I pass the floor back to you, Lori.
Thank you for the very, very good picture. Any quick comments, questions from the audience? Anyone? I think the work also with the alcohol action plan, I mean, good luck for implementing, and this is definitely an important work, and hopefully as a danger with any kind of documents is that they will stay on paper, so the implementation part is of course the important part. What do you see, just briefly, what do you see is the main thing that you need, or you see that when we talk about alcohol and drug issues and problems and mental health problems, what is the biggest need at the moment? Besides peace, of course, but I mean in the work that you're doing in this field. Any one of you?
Oleg, do you want to step in as
Yes, maybe I would start from the prevention side. Of course, the first WHO best buy is taxation. In Ukraine, we do have a very clear picture in terms of taxation of tobacco products, because every year the tax increase for 20% until we reach the EU level of the tax. Unfortunately, we do not have the same history with the alcohol. And of course, prices for alcohol in Ukraine are very far from the ones that we dream here in WHO. So probably in terms of prevention, that would be number one that we advocate for. And we hope that one day we would have the same strategy for tobacco taxation and alcohol taxation. But of course, prevention is only one part of the whole work in terms of substance use. And in terms of realization and implementation of policies that we have, I'm pretty sure that there are extra needs that, of course, in Ukraine still exist.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Hello, colleagues, and I would like to add just something that in terms of services, we now see the opportunity to transform the healthcare system from responding to severe forms for addiction, including withdrawal syndrome or alcohol psychosis, to focusing on early intervention, early screening and based on audit and assist tool mentioned Alisa. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all three of you. And we wish all the best, really, from the bottom of our hearts, that the work that you are doing is extremely important. Now we end with this Ukraine part, turning to William, our board member from Estonia. Some of you who have attended our conferences earlier remember he has shared some snapshots from his frequent humanitarian trips to Ukraine. And this time as well, I have asked him to share one photo with us. I'm not sure what he will share, but William, please.
Hey everybody, and I use my all 5 minutes and I show you more than one photo, so but it's good to see everybody who have me met and listen all the presentation. And now it's my turn with the famous sharing. Let's try. Do you see now?
It's coming. Yeah, very well.
Okay, from the first touch the button. Okay, yeah, I will. I'm representing the Public Foundation of Hope from Estonia. As Lauri mentioned, we have a privilege to be in the NordAN board also, and this is a network which is actually connecting the rehab centers, civil society, church-based rehab centers in Estonia, and also we are the part of the networks in which connecting Baltics, led by BBI from Latvia, and worldwide organization Isaac. But beside of all of this, our main activities, and since the full-scale invasion 2022, 24th of February, of course, we couldn't take our part of our time and resources for helping the Ukraine, because we have some rehab centers we have been connected there in Uman, and we since that we try as many times as we can to visit the Ukraine, and especially Kherson region, Kivoi Rog, and the villages there in the Kherson region. So anyway, this is our map. This is how all started really quickly. That was the first ambulance in Estonia still, and in a service in Ukraine, and everything starting from the seeds, which was main load in last trip, ending with the big transformators, which was also recently sent to Ukraine. This is all donated by the individuals and organizations from Estonia, Sweden, and so. And this is our last trip there. It's the many. Unfortunately, I don't have time to share all the stories behind those people. On the left side up there is it's a pastor of the Dom Clebo Church in Kivoi, and he has been our main partner delivering the aid there, and we have been in Kherson region villages many times and see the need there, and of course every time if we coming back, we wanna as soon as possible go back again there. Yeah, and this is the other side of Ukraine, which we see every trip, and which is breaking our hearts. Of course, just recently was 1 year from this day when the Russians sent ballistic missile to the Kivoi Jubileine region, children playground, and more than 20 people lost their lives there. So it's heartbreaking just to be there. We were there 4 days after that when this happened, and it's terrible, just terrible. And this time was really different because we have heard the need from the chaplains, from the church leaders, from the rehab leaders that many soldiers who have injured on the front line and redrafted or were sent back homes or returning back to their families. Of course, they suffered a deep PTSD, and often it's the solution is to medicate this with alcohol and drugs, and so it's they are not same. They cannot fit to the society. They had in the front line. They had a brotherhood. They have a goal. Everything is black and white, life and death. And but when the families welcome them back, it's a different person. All this trauma, they cannot fit to the society back. Social support, it's about 17 euros per month. The pensioners get about 60-80 euros per month. Really tough situation. So anyway, I see my time is flying. So the leaders who we met, they said that it would be really good if somebody would come and help teach us in this area. So Dr. David Sutton, who is a professor of the psychology from United States, Sarasota, Florida. So he joined us in this trip, and we had really great time in Vinica. 3 days seminary, absolutely great time, and we built the new connections with them, with the local leaders. Of course, it's really challenging to traveling and everything. It's around the things. And it's some of the feedbacks from small seeds. And on last trip we had 240 kilos of those. So in the end, I think now already they are 240 kilos on the soil already of Kherson region, and it will be millions and millions of fruits of these seeds, and some children packages also. So we are back. I'm over 1 minute. Thank you so much. It's all everybody's help and impact what make the difference. So thank you so much. for everybody.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry
William.
to going over.
No problem. Thank you, William, and you also keep up the good work. We are moving now on to the WHO. We're just talking with WHO Ukraine people, but now to the WHO head office. Dag Rekve is our good friend and has been giving us a kind of a short series when it comes to the SAFER initiative. At the Riga conference, he talked about the initiative more generally. Then during the NordAN Open Day in Copenhagen, he already focused more on the local situation a little bit, and now we can hopefully hear more about this from Dag. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Wait a little bit. I'm operating in several different channels here, so I just need to close down.
Totally understandable. Hopefully you can be flexible enough. We have been a little bit struggling with the times, true.
Yes, so let me just wait. Let me see. Can you hear me first of all?
Very well.
I don't think you can hear me. Huh?
We can hear you.
Okay,
yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Laurie and colleagues. Great to be here again and to take the next step with talking with you about how we can implement SAFER together. It's difficult to come after a presentation from Ukraine and the pictures we saw from our colleagues from Estonia. But at the same time, it's a reminder to us all that alcohol and alcohol policy always have to be seen in context. And I think that's the main lesson. So alcohol is seldom, alcohol policies and alcohol issues are seldom a single issue that you can operate with without having any context. That was something we perhaps could do in the beginning of the 19th century. And when in fact, like in alcohol was a very often a single issue even in elections in countries. But we are not there. And I think this was a very serious reminder of that we have to look at it in context. And of course, we are in extremely difficult geopolitical context now, with many countries struggling for revenues, for trade issues, for local economies and national economies. So it's a very difficult landscape to operate in under, and one can often be a little bit discouraged by all these geopolitical issues. But at the same time, I think there are ample scope for alcohol policies and raising awareness of alcohol-related harm in this environment too. So I think that's the main lesson we can have from this. Now, let me see if I can manage. We are usually operating with Teams now, and obviously Zoom has changed. So let's see if I'm lucky like the others. Let me see, and it always depends where it ends. So let me try to share this. I think the presentation will be thrown up there. Let me see.
Now we have your screen.
Where it ended. Can you see the full presentation?
With your speaker's notes.
I hope, yeah. I think we can see the full presentation or not. I don't see it.
We can see the slides, but not as a.
Yes, I think it's the full presentation, or not. No, let me wait a little bit. Let me try one more thing. I'm not hearing you. That is my main problem now.
Okay.
Because I was operating on the. Can someone talk now and see? Because I can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, I hear you. So let me try one more time.
We did see the slides, but not as a full screen mode.
No, exactly. Let me see. No.
Yeah, this is good. Now it is on.
No, it's a full screen. Okay, good. So again, we are back to localizing of SAFER and more to talk about from principles to practice and look at how we can take it into the communities and what kind of practical tools are available and how one could work together to reach the community level. So at the first series, we talked about why SAFER matters, and what is SAFER, and what does it contain, and what are the fundaments for it, and then and we also talked about localization of SAFER. And now we are coming to the third part, which is the practice. How can we implement SAFER? And just a quick reminder, SAFER is a focus on the 5 most cost-effective interventions with 3 separate integrated strategies: implement, monitoring, and protect, and there's a reason why we have separated, even though some clever guys would say everything is implementation. But we have decided to really, because they have their own thinking and their own momentum and needs to have their own focus. But it's also important that many are a little bit confused about SAFER. What is SAFER? It's a technical package. It's high impact strategies. So basically, it's much more than a technical package. It provides a platform for long-term thinking, how to create legitimate institutions, how to have sustained support, and how to have achievable policy aims back to the geopolitical and local context that we are operating under. So that's why we are saying that durable progress depends not only on the choice of measures or the 5 cost-effective interventions, but also the strength of the institutions where they operate in. The legitimacy of the process is very important, and then the ability to maintain direction over time. So this is why we always say that SAFER is much more than just 5 cost-effective interventions. It's about thinking about the implementation of the overall of the Global Alcohol Action Plan, and then translate it into the contexts where the measures have to be implemented over time. Why is localizing SAFER matters? Because when we talk about localization, we talk about the subnational level. So not at the national level, but at the subnational level. And basically, it's about that the national policy rarely stops being abstract until it's really enforced on a Friday night. And it seems like we somehow have lost this link between, and it's difficult to push this link into the policy debate in a real way, and not only an abstract way. And many of you who come from civil society have long experiences is trying to translate the harm into the policy debate, and you know that it's very difficult and can be very single-minded and very often based on testimonies, and you can go off in a completely different direction that you were originally thinking. But at the local level, that's where the harm manifests itself, and there where they are also, but also importantly, that's the local level also have a lot of competency on many of the issues, which then of course have a national frame, but licensing, drink driving enforcement, and screening beef intervention in the health services at the local level. Often marketing ruling enforcements can be at local level, pricing policy compliance in the shops and in the bars and those things, and also unrecorded alcohol. So there are many issues, and because we have got this question, why localize SAFER? Why this is the 5 most cost-effective interventions at the national level? No, it's much more than that. So then we have the delivery chain at the national level. And that's, you have the national policy that I talked about, the subnational rules and enforcement, and then the community practice and services. So these are kind of, when you talk about localization, you have to look at the whole value chain of local alcohol policy measures. Some of it is outside of the local community, others are inside the local community, and others are really associated with what is going on in the local community. And then in the SAFER implementation, the broader SAFER implementation, we have kind of 3 modalities also, but more like a menu than a hierarchy that needs to be worked on. So we are working in-depth country partnership. We do that in Uganda and Nepal. We do regional intercountry learning. We have recently, last year, we had the learning in 3 languages with 15 African countries. And then you have the community level localization, which especially we have been trying to do in Nepal, but really systematized by Ireland itself without too much input from us. We were very surprised when we realized what was going on, and we see this is something we really want to be part of. That someone takes SAFER, makes it their own, and starts implementing it. And then we can come in and see how we can facilitate and support those processes. So these are the three main lessons learned we have now built the SAFER documentation on. That's Uganda, Nepal, and Ireland, and talked about it the last 2 times. I will not go into detail much. I would just emphasize, due to time, that we have a lot of local lessons learned that we are now systematizing in a SAFER implementation book. But again, focusing on how difficult it is, because here, in spite of looking positive, we have a lot of inertia and a lot of difficulties. Here is the outside of the parliament in Uganda on the Freedom Day in Independence Day in Uganda. The Independence Monument was covered in an alcohol ad, and this was the context we operate on in Uganda, a very difficult context to operate in. In Nepal, we had a different approach, but again, we were seeing that the national ban was not implemented at all, and through SAFER and local action, they started with really both directives from the government, but also civil society being very active. And here is one example how an advertising is then physically removed in a local municipality, very much thanks to civil society activity in combination with local governments and national authorities. Building SAFER communities, community-led, operating now in 10 communities in Ireland, a lot of implementation challenges, but at the same time, very interesting pilot project for us, where they have really co-designed, as I said, SAFER. It's not that they just don't take a blueprint, but they adapt it to their own setting and work with the communities and develop a way of how to work. They have a very interesting IMARC standard for how to protect from conflict of interest, both in research and politics. They also have an accredited training program and an independent evaluation. And they could do this because they were hooking it up to the national plan in Ireland. So they got funding through national authorities to have a 3-year project. It's considerable funding opportunities. So that's something one also needs to think about. We've heard very interesting presentations today from Finland, Sweden, and Norway. I think they illustrate something that we haven't much talked about, and that is that we have a new old alcohol industry. The last 20 years, we have been so happy to be able to bash the multinationals and blame everything on the big multinational companies, and seeing that they are the big enemy and the big problem here. And what we're seeing now is that this is in fact from the bottom. It's fragmentation of alcohol policy systems from the local level, and that is something we need to address much more concerted. And that's why also localization of SAFER is important, because it goes directly into these local discussions and can be a balance to this commercial pressure that we now see from the local level. I just wanted to say that this is something we also saw in Uganda. And this is the picture is a case study produced by the World Bank with support from NORAD and SIDA and development agencies. And it's talking about, because in Uganda, the beer industry did not use grain from Ugandan farmers. They imported the grain. So they found out that why don't we produce this raw material for beer in our own country? So they were able to get a discount, the tax rebate for this beer. They were able to put up a pilot project from the supply side, getting farmers to use to grow grains for beer, which is now the result today after this is first that it's used as a case study for how supply side initiatives could be done in developing countries. Secondly, it created dependence of the agricultural sector, a huge part of the agricultural sector on the alcohol production. So in fact, in tobacco and drugs, we talk about crop replacement. Here, in fact, we are talking about crop in placement. And the concrete result of this project was that the beer that was started, this is now the main selling beer in the country. unrecorded alcohol is unchanged. That was the main argument for the whole process. And last year, 2 years ago, with the alcohol control bill that was tabled in the Uganda parliament that was killed, one of the biggest organizations lobbying against the bill was the agricultural sector. So that's why we are saying, and there's some thinking that a few people in Geneva can sit and think up a framework convention on alcohol control, and the world will be so much better. And I'm always surprised of the strength of the force of those arguments of the people who say that. And those are often people who also don't have much influence on their own local governments and what their own local national governments are doing in Geneva. So that's why I think we need to reframe the whole debate around the international alcohol policy. Yeah? And that is, if the pressure is local, the defense also has to be local. And you do not get the framework convention on alcohol control if you have lost the locker room, to use a sports analogy. Resource mobilization is an extremely important part in this part. One thing is to tap into existing funds, either the big global philanthropy or national funds, but we think have to think much more to integrate it into the overall thinking on alcohol revenues. We heard from Ukraine, and we heard from many countries now that taxation is the big thing, and we are very worried about only focusing on taxation, because we are missing a lot of things in that picture. It's because it becomes back to the revenue generating purpose of alcohol taxation and not about reducing harm. Yeah, we talk about win-win-win, but basically we want the money and that's what we want. So we need to put alcohol taxation into a frame. And since the governments have allowed the population to be exposed to a psychoactive, toxic, and dependence-producing product, a considerable amount of those revenues should go back to reducing that harm. I think that's obvious. And we are not clear enough about advocating for that link. And that means that earmarking and integrating into budget, either as earmarking a safer levy. We've always talked about perhaps a safer levy, something we could start talking about, but finance ministers are not very happy with this earmarking, but integrating much more clear into integrated budgets. And through that, also using investment cases. We are struggling with how to develop very good investment cases, but we hope to get a much better approach to it, so that can also be used even at a local level to increase the awareness of the cost of alcohol. So that's why the revenue part is something, and the resource mobilization is something we need to talk much more systematic about. So I will not talk about that because I've talked about it, why local safer actually looks like on the ground with the different areas, but it is important to remember that. And then the enabling conditions for local safer. It needs to have a national frame. I think that is important. You can't start without a national frame, and it's important to be able to start, but it might be more barriers to move. But if you don't have nothing, you should anyhow start with it. You need some real convener, some champions, or someone who is willing to step up and work concerted with that. And perhaps someone with authority and not necessarily a health focal point. There needs to be practical tools off the shelf, and that is what we are working with now in producing these documents that can be used and translated. You need clearly an independent civil society and on the ground. You can't come in with international civil society organizations, and especially in this geopolitical frame that we have now, it really need to be locally anchored, and us up in the global sphere, we need to take the role as facilitators, not as implementers or drivers. We need to be that facilitating. It needs to be owned and driven locally. And domestic financing in the long term, as I talked about. What trips it up then? Industry interference also at the local level, and there the industry interference is different because it's your brother or your mother or your father or your cousin or your best friend from sports who is doing a sport, who is running a pub or is doing the local brewery. So it's a different kind of perspective on commercial interests. capacity gaps between municipalities. That is something we have seen for a long time. Different rules in different municipalities always creates a nice game to play for the industry. Considerable political turnover, so how to make it independent of political turnover, and data, local data. Local governments also ask always about local data. We have developed a monitoring tool for city indicators, in fact, that can be used. And then what kind of style of funding it is. Project style is very nice. It mobilizes for a short term, and then the money runs out, and what is there to keep going on the project. So I will not go through this in detail, but you need to go through this checklist. You need to have a systematic approach for safer implementation. And that is what we are working with now, to try to make this checklist some usable tools that can be translated. We are coming up with a progress report on safer that will be launched next month. Hopefully, this is still a concept note, but be aware and look out for the announcement where we are announcing the launch of the safer progress report. We hope to have it in 5 sites live to show that this is not about WHO, but this is really about work on the ground. And we have also developing a implementation toolkit, which probably we hope to have out in September, at least before my retirement in the end of September, hopefully. But those who know WHO knows that these type of publications take a long time. So perhaps I will have to sit outside the organization to see it being published. So that is a conclusion for me. Safer succeeds when individuals and societies can feel the difference. Safer roads, fewer hospitalizations, reduced violence, lower health systems costs, and healthier and safer communities. And policies and theoretical discussions are only instruments that can be used and are not the final goals in this process. And that is our challenge, I think, to come on the offensive so that we can win these battles also on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. We are really privileged that you have given us this kind of a three-part series and this time and today as well. Thank you a lot. You mentioned your retirement. We do hope that you will stay a NordAN friend, maybe even have more time to get engaged with us. So we thank you for everything that you have done and will do in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for the possibility to be here and have this series with you. And hopefully, yes, it can be a continuation, both from WHO sides and also from my personal side. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Doc. Now we are coming to the close. Sorry, everybody. The time is difficult to monitor in many ways, but we want to now briefly connect today's discussion to the road ahead as well. We have been talking about being inspired by the last conference in Riga, but the next conference takes us to Faroe Islands in October 8th and 9th. And this last part will be brief, short. I have asked Edva, our board member from Faroe Islands, from the Blue Cross Faroe Islands, to give a very short picture of the political situation, because just like Denmark, also Faroe Islands had elections recently. And Edva, can you inform a little bit us what's the situation after the elections in Faroe Islands?
Yes, I will do. Hello. It has been very interesting to hear about everything. And this short will be out of slides. And I think it's okay now. We have looked for so many slides. So I have slides with fairy pictures next time. So yeah, like Lauri said, it was parliamentary election on the 26th of March, right after we were in Denmark, the day after. And it was a change of government. it looks like before that it will be a change, and it was a change. Now there is a collection between the Public Party, the Union Party, and the Liberal Party. A board collection with now is the collection with 22 seats. And can you hear me? Okay, yeah. It's now 22 seats in the parliament. Then it will be a more burgers collection than before, when it was a socially collection. And when I tell that, it's because now it's more, the two of the party is not so liberal with alcohol than the three. When the liberal parties, the other parties, it will be more liberal about alcohol and not drugs maybe, but alcohol, and we can, and the collection does not have. I've seen about what they want to work with, and the collection don't not have the goal of making alcohol beverages more easily acceptable on the next year. It's more conservative in that area. Maybe not to change to stronger, but not to make it more liberal. It's not started in the collection right now. It's very early because the collection was in March. They are not getting started, but expect it to be calmer in the area over the next 4 years. The last 4 years, then we get the farm sales that we have been talking a lot about this, and the law was changed, in the alcohol law, and it's very not so often. It's very many years between when it get changed, but it is changed, and the farm sales in Faroe Island now is for everything what they work with. Before it was about 5% they could sell, but they say it's to tourists, but it's to groups, and groups can be fairs also. So it's a way to get it out of the monopoly. So you can see it's the same in all countries. They try to get it more legal to sell alcohol everywhere. But but I saw one of these slates that was telling about prevention, and that they will go down in cutting in prevention. But it's good here in Faroe Islands. The government is working hard with prevention, and we NGO in Faroe Island has got the same for this year, and we have got more for this year than last year. So they see that prevention is important. So that's good. We got more in Blue Cross for few hundred thousands, and we can do our work more strong, and we can have the people to work with it. It's difficult when you get cutting, because it's difficult then to have the people working with prevention. So I hope that they, as I said now, that the focus will be on prevention, so that young people have even more drug-free alternatives. And that is a Blue Cross working a lot with the young. You will see more of that when you come to Faroe Island. I thought to have maybe an open day. I went back with that, so we can go in their place and see what they and hear about what they are working with. So prevention is very important, I feel. But the governments will always, when you have a liberal government, it will always try to make it more liberal. But right now, for next year, it may be a little bit relaxing on that area, but maybe not up to 20. I don't hear about this in Faroe Island. We have 18 year, but I can see when I look at it that, and it's the same as Iceland, all the other that they try when we have a big arena. It's only 1 year old, and you have all humble, and you have a lot of thing there, and they have 2 bars to sell. And they started to sell a little bit when young people is playing. So we have to to tell them all the time, and that's not allowed to sell. Okay, they sell to grown-up people, but they sell it when kids is playing. Also, and it's because they have to get money for the arena, and I think it's sad to see that money shall be earned on that way. But we'll see it's all this country. Everybody try to make a little a little bit more to alcohol, but I hope prevention is strong, and I look forward to see you in Faroe Island in October. That was the short without slides.
Excellent. Thank you, Edward. That was an appetizer looking ahead to the days that we hopefully see many of you in Faroe Islands. I will just show you the website so you can go and view more. We will stay at the fascinating building, the Nordic House in Torshavn. So this should be an interesting place. We have a few hotel agreements that you can choose from, and the registration is open. So you can find the website from our main site, NordAN.org. So you can follow the banners there. The monopoly system will definitely be discussed. As you know, in Faroe Islands, there is a monopoly as well, and we have already an agreement with the director of the Faroe Island monopoly and also with the Finnish Alko system. So we will hear from them as well. And the work with the program is ongoing. So follow us through our different channels, and you will get all the information. So this brings us to the very end of the meeting. I want to thank all speakers very warmly. I want to think together they gave us a good picture of where the things stand 6 months after Riga. And we can see that we have issues to work with. I also want to thank everyone who joined, listened, and contributed on chat. Thank you for your patience as well. We have been going a little bit overboard, but and to close the meeting properly, I would like to give the floor back to our president Marianne for your final reflections and maybe conclusions. So Marianne, please.
Thank you so much, Lauri, and a big thank you to each and every speaker and the audience contributing here. It's been really interesting, and we've been really going over a wide field with some very promising development. Latvia, it's really good to follow you and see. And I noted, Ginta, you're saying that responsible evaluation means not overclaiming before the evidence is ready. And I think that's very valuable, and especially that you're doing a good evaluation, because that's very often what we lack. We don't really read, we need the new knowledge so we can see what really works and where can we go forward. And you have even already now the next legislative steps ready. So we are really following you and looking forward to see that. The Nordics, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. Yeah, we have challenges here. And in a way, some time ago, you at a different meeting said that it was in Finland, it started with very small steps, and suddenly you have a big political change. So I think Iceland, Sweden, and Norway really have to be on their toes and following. And I noted, Rebecca, you were saying that the political packaging matters. Making our narrative attractive is of a main importance. And I think that's really the core business here. Because this farm sales, this romantic view on the local producers, it gives it very difficult to argue against it. So you have to, in a way, switch the narrative and not accept that one. So I think that goes on all the way. On the drugs, Peter and Stig-Erik, you've been driving this forward, and it's good for us to keep that. And I hope that the audience here will also go into the paper and comment and make our paper even better forward. Ukraine, it's heartbreaking. I have to say, You was telling us it's in your 5th year, and we saw the pictures from William, and yeah, it breaks. It's just unbelievable for us who are living in peace. On the bright side, there is that you have actually come closer to Europe. We are far more today aware of what's going on in Ukraine than we were earlier. And I also think it's fantastic to see just in the middle that you have these action plans and reduction of consumption and really moving forward on national policy dialogue in the middle of everything else happening. That's even in wartime, as you said yourself. And I think that's, yeah, we are sending our deepest good wishes as much as we can. Dog, the safer, yeah, it's exciting, and we're following it closely, and we will be following it up along the way. The Alcohol Policy Network is also trying to do something with that, and we've shown our interest. You mentioned the taxes, that we have to see the revenues in perspective. Then I just want to remind about the statement, the resolution that NordAN did in Riga was actually on health taxes and civil society. So we have a piece of paper here on the NordAN website on this that we can use and push forward. So it's been, and then I can at the same time really do a little marketing for the NordAN website. You do find a lot of good information here. And I really hope to see you all in Faroe Island. We are so looking forward to this. And before that, we have the 15th of June. We have the drug policy Zoom meeting. So I hope to see you both here and in writing and everywhere. And thank you, a big thank you, especially to Lauri and to the speakers.